Hello and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. It's a podcast where we speak to mavericks across the comedy world. Now, today's guest has come all the way from Dublin to be on this podcast. She is the organizer and head honcho of Ireland's oldest comedy club, a club where the man from My Hero sitcom used to perform and I think set up. She is a lady who's been famous in sitcoms. She's written sketch and she's also performed improv. She is a lady who is an absolute queen of the Irish comedy scene. Please welcome Sharon Mannion.
Wow, what an intro, Marvin. This is great. I was like, wow, who's coming out? It's not me. That was lovely. Thank you. You forgot to mention that I'm an architect of destiny. Is that not what we agreed in the
Oh, yes, I forgot
preamble?
to mention that.
Yeah,
I do apologize
it's okay.
for that.
It's fine. Whatever. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. I just would like people to know that.
Well, she is an amazing host. A bit like she could make a whole lineup of frogs look like Louis C.K. And she... No, not Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle. And she is a great host, which is the architect of a comedian's destiny.
Thank you very much, Marvin. We got there in the end. It was a bumpy ride, but we got there in the end.
Did you like how I said that you could turn a bunch of frogs into Louis C.K.?
I wasn't sure. I was like, how am I to take that now? I preferred when you switched to Dave Chappelle. I felt like we were in safer territory there.
Yes, we were. Now, I would say a lot of people from this podcast, even though I'm from the UK and live in London, most of my listeners are all the way in America. So for people
Hello,
that are
America.
could you do a nice New York accent, like you're from the Italian America?
Hey, I'm not some kind of a performance seal here, okay? You got to do your own accents, Marvin. All right? Get out of my face. Hey, we're walking here. That kind of thing. There you go. Yeah. If you want more, you have to sign up for my OnlyFans.
Okay, fair enough. It's £20, guys.
Oh, okay. I'll take that. Yeah, that's good.
So for anyone that hasn't heard about you and doesn't know about your comedy journey, give us a little notch of your comedy journey.
Oh, genie, Marvin. Okay, this could take a while. All right. So basically, I'll start backwards. I'm a stand-up comedian and I'm an actor and a writer as well, and an improviser, I would put in there. I currently am the booker and runner and resident host of the Comedy Cellar in Dublin, which is Ireland's longest running stand-up comedy club, which was set up back in the day by Ardal O'Hanlon and Barry Murphy and Kevin Gildee. What else? I kind of started out as an actor. That was kind of my thing. And then fell into doing improv comedy was really where it kind of all started for me. And then once I started doing improv and kind of fell in love with that, and then suddenly I was around a lot of just comedy generally, stand-up, etc. So I guess at some point I sort of was like, I'll give that a go as well. Did that, loved it or got on great. Well, I would say I got on great with that rather than I loved it. It kind of felt like one of these things I should be doing. So I did it for a couple of years, and then that was years ago, and the arse kind of fell out of the economy here. I don't know if you heard about that. And I sort of stopped kind of doing it around then. I sort of was doing other things, and I was on a couple of TV shows, and I was writing for stuff and blah, 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 and doing sketch. I was continuing to dip my toe into stand-up, but sort of not in any meaningful way. And then I suppose the short version is during COVID or post-COVID, I was asked to run the Comedy Cellar, which I did enthusiastically and sort of really fell back in love with stand-up specifically, and probably for the first time really in my career really properly started to feel really passionate about stand-up specifically, if that makes sense.
What made you fall back in love with stand-up?
I think really it was a COVID did a job on me, like it did a number on everybody. But I think coming up to COVID, in the years preceding COVID, I was getting a lot of writing work. So I was writing for TV and radio and stuff, and I was really enjoying that. And I was kind of starting to think that I was sort of like, oh yeah, I think I'm a writer. Yeah, no, I think that's who I am. I'm a writer. Yeah, absolutely, I'm a writer. And then COVID happened, and I sort of was surprised by how much I missed live performance. I just really, really desperately missed it. And so by the time COVID, things opened up again and I was running the cellar, I had this really lovely, I would say the first year and a half or so of running the cellar was probably the happiest performance wise of my life, because I just had this renewed, I don't know if I'd ever really loved stand up before. I sort of tried it, was reasonably good at it. So sort of people around me were kind of like, "Oh, you should do more of that." And I was kind of like, "Okay, I guess I'll do more of it." But it was sort of, it wasn't fully coming from me, I think. Whereas post COVID, I just really had this lovely, I was in this lovely state of like, oh, I'm really enjoying this. And also I think the fact that post COVID nothing really existed in terms of the structures or the hierarchies that had existed before. So I felt this freedom to just kind of do it and not really care, like, what I had no sort of notions about my career, or I just literally wanted to gig. That's all I wanted to do. So I think that a great freedom comes with that, and you get to really tap into something very genuine. So
Okay.
yeah, that was the short version.
Okay. Let's do the long version now.
No, you don't have time. You don't have time, Marvin. That's on my OnlyFans. You have to pay the 20 quid to hear that.
Okay. So, getting into running one of Ireland's oldest comedy club, how is that like? Getting the message saying, "Listen here, sweetheart, you're running the
Yeah.
best club in Ireland."
Listen here. No pressure, but yeah, do you know what? It was weird. It's like kind of like what I touched on there. It was during COVID that these conversations were happening. So I sort of agreed to take it over at a time when it didn't really exist. So it was kind of like, and I was initially running it with another comedian who she didn't pursue it then in the end, but it was the pair of us were asked to do it. And so, yeah, it was just kind of weird. We were sort of like, I guess we'll be running that when things pick up. But like, I'd say we actually had the conversation like a year or more out of when COVID finished. So it was kind of like this hypothetical thing. And so then when it did become a reality, again, because everything was up in the air and nobody really knew what way things were going to run in this new post-COVID world, it kind of alleviated any of that pressure, I think, because there was this sense of, well, if it doesn't really work, it won't be my fault. It'll be because of COVID and stuff. So I think actually that was probably a good thing. So I didn't really have that intense, like, oh my God, I'm taking over, this hugely important thing. I didn't really feel it. Everything, sure, yourself, after COVID, everything was just thrown up in the air. So I kind of just went with that feeling.
And being like a booker, host, an architect of comedians' destinies, just to be correct.
Thank you, Marvin. Thank you. You need to say it 5 times throughout the podcast as per my contract. Thank you.
Being a comedian as well, how they say, what would you say are the benefits and sometimes the drawbacks? Do you get some funny messages saying, "Oi, what you not putting me on for?"
Oh yeah, a little bit of that. I mean, yeah, I'll start with the benefits. The benefits are just for my own creativity. It's been invaluable, just to have this space every Wednesday that feels like it starts to feel like your own sitting room after a while, because you just feel so comfortable in the space. And it starts to feel like the people coming in the door are your friends, they mightn't agree with, but you just really start to feel comfortable in this place. And that's allows you, I think, to be very free creatively, because you can kind of take some risks, or you can, you just feel, I feel very open when I'm there. And I just feel this sense that I can try whatever I want and all that. And I think that's invaluable, and just even practically, I mean, I'm on tour with my solo show at the moment, and the same with my previous show. Like, I essentially wrote that, by trying stuff out on the Wednesdays kind of thing. So just in that very practical sense, you have this space to just play, Then in terms of like the sort of more, I guess, career side of things, people get to know you a little bit more. People running festivals and stuff kind of are aware of you. So there's opportunities that kind of comes with that as well. So it's been all great sort of from that side of things. The negative, I guess, you do get a little bit, I haven't had too many crazy messages, I'll be honest. I'm sure there's people out there who are kind of like, oh, she never books me or whatever. But I try and be fair, There's definitely people who slip under the radar for sure. So I definitely, but I think after a while you sort of have to let that go a little bit and just accept that, you don't owe anybody anything really, and I'm just trying to run a good night. I'm trying to be fair, but ultimately I'm trying to serve the audience in front of me. I try and have a female act on every week, which I pretty much have been successful with that, bar maybe once when somebody had to cancel or whatever. So that's not something I sort of, advertise or kind of make a big deal of. That's just my own kind of thing that I feel is sort of important. So, it's just, yeah, I've had a few, I'd say there's a few people who possibly are disgruntled with me or whatever, but ultimately I don't think there's anybody that has been fantastic that isn't getting a gig off me, that sort of way. There's nobody that, like I don't have a sort of I'm not one of these people who's like has beef with people. I just don't. I'm oblivious to anything like that. So there's nobody that I, amn't booking because, oh, well, they looked sideways at me or whatever. If people are good and they're in the scene and they're going well, then I'm booking them. Yeah. And I try and just ignore the other emails.
Fair enough.
That's my modus operandi. Just ignore.
And it's probably the safer thing.
Yes, I think so. Don't engage. Yeah.
Now, you also do a bit of improv as well, and there's a comedian called Russell Hicks who's famous for being a good improviser, and he followed the Book of Now, and he used yes and a lot. And then, what do I say about improv? Yeah, it's a very. Simon Evans says that he loves improv because it's a great mind cleanse. Do you feel that being an improviser is a great thing to add to your bow as a stand-up? Like
100,000,000%. Yeah. I feel like everything I do starts and ends with improv for me. Improv, and I don't necessarily perform a load of improv. I'm with, there's an improv group, the Dublin Comedy Improv. We perform on Sundays in the International. So I'm in there maybe once or twice a month. So that's an ongoing thing. But other than that, there's not really a huge amount of improv work going. It's not like I'm improvising all the time, but it's the bedrock of everything I do. That when I started doing improv, I felt like I really found myself and found, it just really worked for me. And it's almost like, I always say improv is like a religion. Like it's kind of, has these sort of rules in inverted commas that, there's a sort of a structure to it, but then that's all, to be broken and torn down as well. But it's all about listening and making your partner look good and freedom of expression and just all of these things that I love. It's just so creative and playful and collaborative, which I love. And I think on a personal level, it has informed my writing greatly, because I think when you're used to improv, you are very authentically creating characters that feel real, because they have to feel real to you when you're playing them. Otherwise you wouldn't kind of know what to say next. So I think that informs, if when I'm writing scripts, I'm essentially improvising a scene. Like I kind of work, like I've been in writers' rooms, like I'm not a trained writer at all. And I've been in writers' rooms with people who are very, well kind of trained and all the rest of it. And I kind of do it backways to them, I've observed. Like they'll often do, like, most writers in those environments will do like outlines of narratives, and like the writing is kind of the last thing that happens. They'll sort of decide, what happens in the story, and they'll decide the journey of the character, and et cetera, and then they'll write it. And that's definitely the most time efficient way to do it, I think. But I'm almost like, I don't know what's going to happen until I start writing it, because that's the kind of, I'm in that improv headspace where I need to feel it to know that it's the right next thing, if that makes sense. So I think it's made me a better writer in that sense. So I use it in my stand-up. And then just like in terms of my hosting, like if you're comfortable with improv, then it's it's like a superpower when you're hosting, because you're just kind of, the whole thing about improv is that you're comfortable with nothing. You're so used to having nothing and not knowing what's next and just learning how to improv your way out of that. So crowd work and all of that kind of stuff, I really genuinely very much enjoy. Like, I love it. Sometimes I have to sort of remind myself to come back to the material because I'm having too much crack chatting and stuff, because that's, again, it's like being in an improv scene. And I use it now. I used to sort of, in terms of my own stand-up, I used to resist it slightly in my shows. I'd kind of almost like create these rules for myself and go, well, like, that's great now, chatting to the audience and having the crack, but like, for my show now, I'm just doing my show. And then with this tour, Jukebox Donkey, that I'm on at the minute, I kind of went, I actually love chatting with the audience. So I'm going to factor in at least 15 minutes where I can just fuck around, because I really, really enjoy fucking around. So I've done that, and it's been great. So now it's very much in my stand-up, I think, where I sort of come in and out of, I don't think the audience would necessarily be aware what's happening, but for me, I'm sort of like, I'm following a script, but I'm very much coming in and out, and I'm very much going with the vibe of the room and yes-anding whatever's kind of in front of me. So it kind of makes, I don't know if it makes sense when you say it out loud, but it makes sense in my head.
Yes, and?
Hey! Very good, very good.
It's okay. Yeah. How does it work? It just, yes, it makes you comfortable with nothing. But when someone gives you a heckle, do you yes and it and then come up with a response?
Yeah, I mean, the heckle thing is fun. It's funny. Like, I guess everybody has their own. I mean, people always ask me about heckles. I mean, I don't know if I don't seem to get a huge amount of heckles. I don't have a huge amount of examples of like, oh, and then I was doing my set and then this person just shouted out this crazy thing or whatever. I mean, obviously you get drunk people and you kind of get obnoxious people and this, that, and the other. But I'm not one of those comedians who has like a list of put downs ready to go. You know, that's not my sort of, that's just not my style of comedy, really. I mean, I'm not against it. That's just not how my brain works. So I tend to just, I suppose I'm more that comedian that if somebody said something awful to me, I'd be more like inclined to give them a hug. Sort of, you know, go, what happened to you? You know, what happened in your childhood, sort of thing. So I just try and knock a bit of crack out of it. But I honestly don't. I'd be lying if I said, oh yeah, there was this one time that this person said a horrible thing and then I came back with this and whatever. I don't really have a huge amount of experience with that. It's mostly, if anything like that happens, it's mostly somebody is really drunk or something like that. And in which case, I guess my method is to sort of try and, initially I'll always try and shut someone up kind of playfully and sort of, like I did have a guy once who was, this was actually in the Cellar, I think, when I was hosting. So I get up on stage and he's in the front row and he's watching football on his phone. Yeah. And so I get up on stage and I see him and I'm kind of like, oh, and I sort of give him the benefit of the doubt initially. I think, you know, well, the show's just starting. Maybe he was just watching it and he's going to turn it off. So I kind of say hello or whatever. Oh, you're watching. So I kind of like acknowledge it and go, oh, you're watching football. Like, by the way, like, turn it off, you know. And so I'm starting or whatever. And I see a minute or two later, he's still watching football. So I go in a bit, I can't remember what I said, but I go in a bit more heavy-handed then and try and, you know, make a show of him a bit or whatever and make it very clear, like, turn that off, you know. And he still doesn't. So I'd say I'm only about like 5 or 6 or 7 minutes in when I start getting annoyed then. So then I just tell him to fuck off and leave, you know, which he does. And I have a little bit of crack with him leaving, but it was definitely tricky because when you have to do that straight up the top of the show, people in the room haven't really got to know you yet. So they're kind of going, oh, what's this all about? And also like people at the back of the room mightn't necessarily be aware of what's been happening at the front of the room. So they're like, is she just a cranky bitch or, you know? So I remember that one being tricky. But again, I would say I do the same thing in that I just sort of lean into the improv and lean into just like I very much have an approach with all of my stuff, particularly hosting, but in my solo shows as well. Like I have this sense of we're everybody in the room, we're all in this together. Like this is very much a group experience. So I have that, so this guy in that context, for example, this guy on the phone, he's on the phone and he's annoying all of us. I very much try and include everybody in what's going on. And I don't like to create this sense of like me and them. I have this sense of like, we're all pals. So I think I have this sense that like as long as I explain and acknowledge what's going on, everybody's going to be on the same page. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
You treat it as so it's a bit like Strictly Come Dancing. You treat them like the audience like a dance partner. We're all part of one thing. We're here for a good night, and look, these are the rules of the night. Just follow. Let's all have a good time. Let's work together to put on a good show.
Yeah, exactly that. I didn't know where you were going there, Marvin, with the Strictly Come Dancing, but you got there in the end. Exactly that. And I very much have that sense all the way through. So I don't, I sort of rely on creating that atmosphere so that everybody feels that sort of sense of ownership over the night. And when everybody feels ownership over the night, they're more engaged and they're more like, oh yeah, we don't want that fella on his phone. Yeah, because this is our night sort of thing. I think that's what I'm trying to create.
Okay. Yeah, basically, we're here to good night. You're disrupting it, but have a good day. See you later, sir.
Yes, yeah. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Something like that.
I'll tell you a mad story that happened, I think, last year. So me and the host were running a heckle night. These nights are quite a lot of fun. I enjoy seeing what happens in them. But there was a guy that came in late, and he did get off to a very funny entrance. He came in the show, and the host goes to him, "Where would you like to sit?" And then he points to some guy in the audience, his lap, and says, "I'd like to sit there." That's the first thing that was a bit. They got a huge laugh, and he was heckling throughout, and he was getting a bit too much. He was getting too much attention. His ego was going through the roof.
Yeah.
And the host gave him even more attention, which was just, it made it worse and worse. And then Andy Zapp basically put the guy in his place a bit. He got quiet. And then after the break, Andy Zapp goes and says, "No hard feelings," and everything, all right. And then he starts swearing at him and having a go. Okay. And then Andy puts him in his place a bit again. And then he stands up and he's about to have a go at him. But we got in our way and we sorted that out, and like he left and everything went fine. Yeah. But from your side of things, what do you think went wrong then? What would you have done differently in that kind of situation?
Oh Lord, it's very hard to, I guess it's hard to know unless you're in it. But I think there is I suppose the one thing that struck me there is that there is a balance when you get somebody like that. There's a balance between, you have to give them enough attention that they, you kind of have to give them their moment, or they'll never shut up if you don't give them their moment in the sun kind of thing. But then if you give them too much attention, that just encourages them and, makes the whole thing worse. So I don't know if it's hard to identify anything that was done wrong necessarily there, but maybe that's where the balance wasn't struck. So if somebody comes in with a very energy of, hey, I want this to be about me, like an audience member comes in, I want this to be about me, you have to try and shut that down as quick as possible. Even if they are initially funny, like he says he wants to sit in the guy's lap or whatever, he gets a laugh, great, but he has to be shut down. he has to be neutralized, or else, because obviously in his mind he's going, oh, I'm getting a laugh now, whew, great. He's just being emboldened and encouraged. I even have a bit in my comedy a lot of the time where sometimes something will happen organically, and it's, you're chatting with an audience member, say for example, and they say something quite funny, and the whole audience laughs, and I have this thing where I kind of go, and I turn it into a bit, obviously, but it's like, that's great now, but I won't have the audience being funnier than me. Thank you very much. So it's kind of, it becomes a kind of a joke, and it's a kind of a like whatever. But I do think it's driven by a certain amount of truth, and it's not necessarily about the audience being funnier than you, but it's about the attention and the energy. The energy and if the energy and the attention shifts too much into the person or persons in the audience, then you're losing the room. So I think whatever happens, the person on stage has to be in control the whole time. I did once, I just remember there as you were talking, I did in the crack den, actually, I had a packet of chewing gum flung at me on stage once.
What?
Yeah, which was probably, and that for me now would be, they need to be removed. Sometimes something goes far enough that it's like, this is now, get them out of the room, sort of thing. The context was, they were a couple, they were really drunk, and they were English, but look, that's neither here nor there, Marvin. That's neither here nor there. That's just by the way. That's just by the way. So they're an English couple, and I can't even remember now. They were talking, yes, they were talking, really drunk talking. So I tried, I asked them sort of playfully, shut the fuck up a few times or whatever, which wasn't really working. They'd stop and then they'd kind of start again. So actually, yeah. And so then I realized, okay, exactly what I just said there. They have to be spoken to. They're not going to stop now. They're looking for attention, and they're not going to stop now until I give them a bit of attention. So I kind of made that call, I guess, instinctively, of like, right, I'm going to have to engage here for a moment and see if I can, they haven't, sometimes you tell people to shut the fuck up in some sort of way, and that's enough. They go, oh, right, and they stop. If they don't, you have to try something else. So I was like, right, I'll engage with them. So I tried to speak with them, and they were really drunk. Like, it was hard to even have a coherent conversation. And I think I asked her what she did, and she said, I can't remember what she said, but I couldn't quite understand what she was saying. And she was getting really frustrated that I couldn't understand what she was saying. And then she just fired, like really viciously, just fired a packet of chewing gum at me. And like, I was kind of like, what? And I really was like, that was the first time I've ever sort of felt that viciousness from an audience member, and especially over like nothing really. It was just sort of, they were just being annoying, and I hadn't said anything like crazy, put down. It wasn't like I'd come back with a vicious put down and she got annoyed. It was just like I couldn't understand what she was saying, and I was kind of, I suppose I was making a show of her a little bit, or sort of laughing at her a little bit, but like that was it. And she fired the chewing gum, and I sort of came out of things for a minute going, you can't do that. Like, you can't throw something at somebody on the stage. Like, that's completely inappropriate. And so then, but then the audience, the rest of the audience, so I said, you just fuck off now, just get out, And then the rest of the audience started chanting, yeah, fuck off, get out. And then I started sort of feeling bad for them, or sort of feeling like, well, I don't want them to be, this baying mob now is going, fuck off, get out. I don't want that to turn nasty. So then I started trying to calm down the rest of the audience, going, leave them alone, it's fine, they're leaving, So they did leave then, and and that was kind of it. But obviously, I mean, the main gripe for me in a moment like that is that, like, I can't remember specifically now, but I probably was going in there to try 10 minutes of new material or something, and so it's just, instead I have to deal with that. So it's like, well, I probably didn't get to try my material. I'm presuming I didn't really get to try my material or anything. So it's just a complete waste of time and energy, So that's probably the most annoying thing a lot of the time with stuff like that. It's just like, you're trying to do something creatively, and then you just end up doing crowd control or whatever. So, yeah.
Did it make a good TikTok clip?
do you know what? I can't remember. I just asked Damo, actually, was that recorded? Because I don't remember seeing. I think I was just in shock afterwards. I was like, so bizarre. Yeah. Anyway.
Who are more mad, the comedians or the audience?
Oh Lord.
Sorry.
That's a very dangerous, or very dangerous. That's a very difficult question to answer because even in my own mind, I'm flip flopping. I would say generally comedians, but then every now and again, an audience member comes through the door, and you're like, "Wow, I haven't seen that before."
Yeah.
So yeah, comedians as a group, comedians, but there's some fucking batshit crazy individuals out there. That's for sure.
How many have you had a couple of jokes that are based on mad audience members? Have you managed to put?
Not really, actually. That's a good question, and maybe something I should be looking to do. But I tend to talk about myself really on stage. So, I mean, I have one joke that I kept, but that's not really audience. Well, it was a critic. I think it was a review I got years ago. And you know what? It was so long ago, I can barely remember the context, but I definitely remember there was a line in there. Sharon didn't let the fact that nobody was laughing put her off.
Whoa.
Which I just think is a lovely line because I actually think in the review or whatever it was sort of intended as a compliment. It was kind of like they were talking about my sort of like energy and, you know, all the rest. But it's just such a funny, to me, it's just such a funny line because it's just like such a backhanded compliment. So I still use that every now and again because I just think it's so funny. I'd say it's from about 20 years ago, but it makes me chuckle.
Okay. Now, this is maybe a stereotype for a lot of...
Here we go.
It's nothing. It is a dangerous question, but this is maybe a stereotype. They say that men aren't good listeners. So I'm going to make sure I get this right. You said that you've done acting, sitcoms, and sketch writing. Am I right in saying, from what you've said in the conversation where the podcast has gone, did you do your role as conceptor before you did stand-up or before like 2020, or was it like...
Yeah, it was before 2020, but like technically I did my first... It's kind of... it's a vague enough... You're forgiven, Marvin, because I'm sort of vague on the dates because like technically I did my first stand-up gig in like 2005 or something like, so you're talking 20 plus years ago, but then I kind of stopped doing it, or I was doing it like, you know, once every 3 or 4 months kind of thing. So I sort of was, and then I'd go months without doing anything, and then I'd kind of do more. So Concepta and Bridget Eamon came in about, it was about 2016, I'd say that was maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was before, it had all finished up before COVID. So yeah, I think it ran from about 2016-ish to about 2017, 2018, something like that. So yeah. But that was great fun. I mean, that was really great fun. It was load of, the whole cast was comics, basically. So yeah, more or less, yeah. I mean, Norma Sheehan was in it as well. She's an actor more so than, well, now she does a lot of live comedy work, but at that stage, she was an actor. But like Bernard O'Shea, stand-up. Jennifer Zamparelli, not a stand-up, okay. But Ed Salmon was in it, stand-up. Colin McDonald, stand-up. A lot of the guest stars, like Carl Spain, stand-up. Like, so it was, we all kind of knew each other, and it was just, my husband Danny Keogh was in it. He's an improviser as well. You know, so it was all this comedy world, and it was just great crack. It's like being at school in a good way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And with regards to, so you've done sitcoms. Was that a sitcom, right? So you've done
sitcom, yeah.
Sitcoms, sketch, improv, and actor. Like, you said that everything comes from improv, but have any of the other things that you've done shaped your stand-up apart from like improv?
Ooh, that's a good question, actually. I suppose they all have, because I suppose that's what even if you're not necessarily consciously aware, I think everything informs everything, really, doesn't it? Especially with something like stand-up, where you're really very much presenting an authentic, albeit heightened maybe, but it's very much an authentic version of yourself. So then it stands to reason, I think, that everything is informed by everything. So I think the sketch comedy, yeah, I would say, like, okay, I'm not really answering this. I'm going to answer it now properly. I am getting my shit together here, Marvin, mentally. I think that I probably am quite characterful in my stand-up. Not that I play different characters, but I think I'm always playing around, I guess, with different accents and different kind of, people often comment on my face, which I always find quite funny. People are like, oh, that thing you did with your face. And I'm like, what the fuck was happening with my face? So I think I have a kind of a rubbery face and a sort of a characterful face. And I think a lot of that comes from sketch comedy, where it's kind of, you have that sort of heightened looking, it's with the type of sketches we were doing anyway, we're sort of very like heightened, exaggerated characters. So I'm assuming that informs a lot of my stand-up, and I'm really comfortable in that kind of space. So I think I use a lot of that. And I suppose writing, I think writing is just like, I love writing. In that same way that every writer says, where it's like, it's so hard to get yourself sat at the laptop. There's so much procrastination involved. But I do love different types of writing. I love writing scripts. I really enjoy writing scripts. But then I also really enjoy writing like articles, and I've written a few articles for different publications. I really enjoy that as well. That's sort of almost like essay writing. I really enjoy that. And then obviously stand-up, the writing for stand-up is this kind of weird, I don't know what it's, I always find it hard to articulate what is stand-up writing. And I don't know how much I actually sit down at the laptop and write stand-up. I tend to just sort of take notes in my phone, and I'll try and develop it a little bit, but really it's kind of written on stage. A lot of the time I'll sort of be working out ideas on stage. So that's a sort of a different thing again. But then I think when you go to edit it, I think I'm a reasonably good script editor. So I think I have a good eye for, like, once something kind of exists, I think I have a good eye for going, okay, that works, that doesn't, that needs to come out of there, that needs to this, da 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 da. So I think the writing and the sketch have probably been the most thing that have informed my stand-up. Acting is a different beast entirely. And in a way, I love acting, but in a way, I don't know, I'm probably moving further away from that maybe at the moment. I don't know. I'm available for work if anybody's listening. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here. No worries. But yeah, I suppose just where I am at the minute, I'm really enjoying, I suppose acting is all about being someone else, and stand-up and comedy and writing is all about tapping into your own authentic voice. And I suppose just where I am at the minute, I'm really enjoying that. Okay. But that's not to say now, if Netflix come calling, Marvin, and they want me to be somebody else entirely, I will do that happily. Thank you.
Well, I am Elon Musk, and I'm gonna go and fund it for you.
Okay, all right, Elon, that's grand. I have no morals. It's fine. You pay me, Elon. I'll spread whatever propaganda you want. All good.
I'll delete that bit out.
Please do.
And what would you make of someone doing stand-up as Asian Zorro? I play Asian Zorro, the swordsman.
Asian Zorro. Well, this is one thing in the cellar as well, is that there's always, the tradition is there's an open spot. There's a spot kept for kind of an open spot at the top of the second half, which most weeks I do have an open spot. And the madder the sort of idea behind the open spot sounds, the more I'm into it. I'm like, so if you email me going, I have this idea to do Asian Zorro, I'd be like, yep, there's 5 minutes for you there. Just come in. I'd love to fucking see that. I love mad ideas, I really do. I love wacky, mad ideas. I just love to see them. I think I have a huge appreciation for people trying stuff that makes no sense. I think I really have a strong appreciation for that, because because that's the only way you find genius, is taking those big swings, of just like big choices. And some of them won't work. Yeah, obviously. But like some of them will. And you don't find them by playing safe and kind of, I'd much rather see an open spot come in and do something fucking mad and fail royally than as sort of a middle of the road, grand, making the audience chuckle, but not really doing anything hugely different to 20 other comedians down the road. I'd be much more likely to give the one who has failed spectacularly another shot than the middle of the road guy,
Is there a few madcap acts that you love to put on at the cellar on the Irish scene? There's loads in London.
Yeah, we don't get a huge amount of, there's not a huge scene here for like mad, there's not many comics, for example, doing character stuff, I can't think of many now. There's maybe one or two, but there wouldn't be a huge scene for that here. In terms of stand-up, I mean, David McSavage is probably one of my favorite. I don't know if do you know McSavage?
I remember him going on the Three Speech comedy podcast, but that's all I know about
Okay. So Dave McSavage, I don't know how to describe him, but he's a loose cannon. And like, I adore him. I just think he's mad. No, like you just don't know what's going to happen, kind of thing. And I really enjoy that personally. A lot of people maybe don't or think whatever, but I think I really like. Do you know what it is? I really like wildness. I really like wildness in a comedian. And a lot of my favorite comedians would have that sort of wildness. And I'm happiest probably, even when I'm performing myself, I'm happiest, I think, when I feel like things, including myself, are slightly out of control, Everything's just a little bit fucking mad. I kind of really like that. And I that sense of not knowing what's coming next. I think that's my favorite type of comedy. And then if you're with a comic who I guess you trust in that space, that's what it's all about. Things are going a bit mad, but you trust that the comic is going to figure it out. I really enjoy that kind of space.
Okay. So I think you'd love Vigo Venom, Milton Jones.
Okay, Vigo Venom. Is that what they're called?
Milton Jones.
Oh yeah, Milton Jones. Yeah, and there was a guy. Oh, I can't remember his name now that I saw in Glastonbury. Feck. I can't remember his name. Yeah, but he was wacky and mad and props and just mad. And then also, isn't it Terry Alderton, is it, who
okay,
the Gollum voice and all that. So I really enjoy that. It's not what I do. Like, that's not really I don't think anybody coming to my shows would describe my act like that. I don't have props and, I'm not that kind of act, but I really enjoy that. Just sort of silly, wacky. I don't even know why this is funny. I love that. If somebody can make me laugh and I don't even know why I'm laughing, that's me gone. I'm a fan for life then, because it's one thing. Obviously, I like comics and I like clever jokes and I like, social commentary and all of that. I think that's great and there's a place for that and I can laugh for that and I can go, oh, that's a really good joke. That's great. But if somebody kind of just tickles my funny bone, just, and they're not doing, all they're doing is, like, I think that guy in Glastonbury was like taking an invisible dog on a walk, and it's just like so silly and daft, but funny. That's the kind of stuff I like.
I'm going to send you some clips on some madcap acts after the interview.
Then I'd be like, Marvin, stop, delete me from your contacts, please, Marvin. You're stalking me now. This is harassment, Marvin. This is harassment.
And then I get cancelled from the Irish and UK scene.
Exactly. Yeah. And then my work here is done.
So you like madcap acts, but How is the Irish humour different to British humour? Because we British,
Yeah,
we like doing a lot of puns. I mean, I've been in a lot of places, but Brits, we love a pun, don't we? Well,
do
no,
love a
not
pun.
we, not we. Brits love a
Yeah,
pun, not we.
yeah, yeah. No, you do. Well, Brits love a pun. Yeah, I think. What's the difference? I mean, there's a lot of similarities, definitely, for sure. And I've had a lot of UK acts in the cellar, and they get on great, So I don't think we're worlds apart. But I guess I suppose Irish comics. I think in Ireland, and I think Ashley B has spoken about this. Um, there's a huge value in Ireland placed on being good crack, It's a very high social currency to be good crack. It's highly valued within families, within social groups, within workplaces. Like, if you're good crack, that's like you're top of the food chain kind of thing. Oh, bring Marvin, he's great crack. Oh yeah, it's Marvin. Oh, he's brilliant. It's really kind of valued. And I think what that means then on a sort of a practical level is that people people are encouraged to be funny and fun and tell stories and have a bit of crack with each other, and that's sort of ingrained in everybody. So I think you already have this base level crack going on in society at large. And then when you get people in Ireland who are even more crack, to the point where they're going to be doing comedy and stuff, I think they've all discounting now people who are deluded, and obviously we've plenty of those here as well. But if you're funny enough to do stand-up comedy well in Ireland, then you've already passed a bar, I think, because probably the average Irish person the average Irish person who has nothing to do with comedy would be more able to do stand-up than the average Brit or the average French person or the average whatever, just because that's the way Irish people interact with each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's offensive.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
joking.
that's what I came here to do, Marvin. I've been waiting. When can I offend this fucker? When is my chance? Here it is. So yeah, I think it's that. I think there's a high value placed on being fun, and so therefore, and then I guess there's a sort of people tell us that we're charming, Marvin. I don't know. Do I believe it? But apparently Irish people are charming and are likable and stuff. So generally Irish comics tend to be, not all obviously, but tend to be sort of in the likable sort of, that's the sort of style or shtick or whatever. So there's a bit of that, and which I think ultimately we're just great crack. We're just great crack.
Oh, good.
Or more crack than ye.
Oh, well, yes, the UK is the best.
Oh, come on, Marvin. You're Irish anyway. You're from Cork, for God's sake. Give it up.
Quarter Irish. What would happen if I went to Cork and I dressed up as my Asian Zorro, but I get my name as Marvin McCarthy, and then they see me dressed in a Zorro costume?
I mean, I take no responsibility for what happens to anybody if they go to Cork, to be perfectly honest. So I would say lots of confusion and yeah, probably just going, what's wrong with your man? What's going on with him? Did you see the book up in town with a mask on? A lot of that, I'd say. Trying to figure out who you are.
What if I said, hello, cousins?
You'd probably get a cup of tea or a pint. But yeah, oh, come on in. Yeah, there's a friend of mine, Tara Flynn. She's a great Irish actor, comedian, etc., and her husband is black. And she's from Kinsale in Cork, and she told a great story years ago. Oh, she'd have to tell it now, but basically, so they were down in Kinsale, and her husband went into, was on his own or whatever, exploring around Kinsale, and went into this pub. And it was one of his first times, I think, being down there. And so he felt like people were looking at him and kind of going, what's your man? And he was kind of feeling, he was probably the only black person in the room and stuff. So he was maybe feeling a little bit like, am I safe here kind of thing. And so eventually somebody came over to him and went, who do you belong to? And he was like, well, thanks to Abraham Lincoln, I don't belong to nobody. And was sort of giving this speech on slavery. And they were like, no, wait, what? We're just wondering who you're related to. Because that's how people in rural Ireland would say, who are you married to or who are you related to? They go, who do you belong to? Like, that's just kind of the turn of phrase. But he was taking it as this offensive, they're remarking on, they think I'm a slave or something. He was just, and they were like, whoa. So it was a misunderstanding, but listen, unfortunately I'd love to come on this podcast and go, there's no racism in Ireland, not a bit of it, none at all, but unfortunately there is. But most people, I'd like to think, are welcoming and curious in a fun, healthy way. So if you come down and do your Asian Zorro, I would like to think it would be met with glee.
Good. I hope so.
But don't come running to me if it's not.
No, I'll just run home to my mummy.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing. That's what I
Now, you supported some of the biggest names in Irish comedy, and you've done a lot of comedy festivals. What is your experience of that, and how was it like? Yeah, supporting some of the biggest names, like warming them up, warming the crowd up, being in the green room, packed stadiums.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I've been very lucky that I have done a lot of tour sport for Deirdre O'Kane, and it's great. What I find about doing tour sport for D is because we would have a lot of the same audience. It's just a really great way for me to get in front of my potential audience. So Deirdre O'Kane is one of the biggest comics we have, and she's playing sold out shows every night of the week kind of thing. So for me to get in front of those people, I can see it myself in ticket sales, like when I do that, and then those people are going, oh, we didn't know Sharon Mannion, and then they'll buy tickets for my show. So on a purely practical level, it's been immensely helpful, and just on a sort of a creative and sort of encouraging level, it's great to be around people like that and sort of, I guess, soak up some of their attitude even, or I suppose you're seeing the nuts and bolts of how they've got to where they are, and you're sort of picking up little tips, even if you don't realize it. You're kind of just being around people like that is hugely beneficial, I think. I did support for Rosie O'Donnell in the Olympia and that, and like, it's huge. Like, it gives you a nice little what's the word? It's nice to have those markers as well, I think, of just kind of to be able to say to yourself, to be able to see that you're progressing, is nice as well. And yeah, they're just like, they're so sound. I think women in comedy as well. Oh, I mean, listen, men are great before anybody comes at me, but like, to be around older women in comedy, I think is just, yeah, you're cancelled again, Marvin. To be around older women in comedy as a female is really lovely, because I think they get it in a level that maybe some of the male comedians don't. And also, I guess, just look, it's like life, isn't it? Women, like, groups of women talk to each other in a different way than groups of men, and then men and women interact in a different way. Like, some of that is just sort of social norms and all the rest. So it's really, really nice to be around women in comedy who are kicking ass, because I suppose it makes you feel like there's no reason why you can't do it as well, So I love them. They all have lovely bottoms. That's a Father Ted reference before anybody...
Oh, okay. I thought it was...
Your face there, you were like, what?
I was going to say each to their own.
Yeah. I just... No. Father Ted.
If I said that, that's a different thing.
Oh, you'd be gone. Well, you would be gone. No doubt about it.
Now, I've asked this question to a lot of comics, and I say, what advice do you give comics? But I'm going to change it. just for you, Sharon.
Oh, wow. How privileged I am.
You're very welcome. And this question is, what would you? Why should people do stand-up comedy? What does it give you? How will it change you for the better? Well, no matter what field you're in or whatever kind of person, what is the benefit of being a stand-up comedian and a performer?
Okay, I don't necessarily think there is a benefit. I think your question is flawed. Stand up for me is it's like a lot of art forms, I guess. It's a mode of creative expression, and I think everybody needs a mode of creative expression, whether that is singing or dancing or drawing or whatever, performing or whatever. So I think the benefits to me are huge, but I wouldn't be so confident to assume that the benefits to everybody else might be the same, if that makes sense. I think everybody has to find their own what works for them. I think for me, it has definitely enabled me to be radically myself. I think that's probably the main thing. And I think with stand-up is such a vulnerable form. You know, when you're out there on the stage, you're on your own. It's your own thoughts. It's your own voice. It's your own script. You're wearing the clothes you have chosen. You know, there's no other influence. It's all on you, and that's an incredibly vulnerable place to be. But it's also very empowering, you know, and it's very, if you can really, really tap into and lean into being yourself in that environment, I think that does have a knock-on effect in other environments. It's a little bit like the improv thing. If you can get comfortable with having nothing, then there's very few environments you're going to go in and suddenly feel like you have nothing to say because you're so used to having nothing. And I think with stand-up, when you're used to that kind of vulnerability, it does probably build a sort of a steeliness inside you, maybe, I think, that is probably useful in other areas of your life. Now, I say all this, I also think comedians are fucking mental. So, you know, including myself included. Like I always say, like people who don't do comedy might have a perception that, you know, you do a great gig and everyone's laughing and everyone's like cheering and they're whistling, like the best gig ever, you know. And people might have and it's 1,000 people and it's just, they fucking love you, you know. And people might have a sense that you come off that going, well, I am the shit. Wow, I'm fantastic. But the reality is you come off something like that feeling okay about yourself. You're like, oh, okay, great. You know, it's almost like, I often wonder the way comedians feel coming off stage after a great gig. I suspect that's how regular people feel all the time. Do you know what I mean? I kind of feel like if you need a room full of people cheering and laughing and validating you in real time, if you need that to feel okay about yourself, I don't know if that's a good place to be, Marvin. I mean, it's too late for me. It's too late for me, but save yourself.
I will try. But I mean, and I'm going to pay you £20 and top
Brilliant.
of the OnlyFans for the therapy session.
Well, I am making a fortune off of this podcast already. This is fantastic. You're my best OnlyFans customer so far.
Oh, thank you, man. You're welcome. Now, for anyone that's listening now, how did they find out about you and your OnlyFans?
Yes. So the OnlyFans, the web, that's a work in progress. We'll see about that. If you find me on OnlyFans, things have gone very badly. So Sharon Mannion Comedy is my handle on Instagram. That's probably the best place to find me. I also have a website, sharonmannioncomedy.com. So I have info up there about tour dates and stuff like that. So I'm coming to the end now of my Jukebox Donkey tour. I have a few more dates left of that to do, and then I guess it's so begins then just getting ready to launch another one. I'm probably due to be, I don't have the dates announced yet, but I'll be back on the road with a new show probably early next year. So yeah, and the Cellar is every Wednesday in the International Bar for anyone who's in Dublin, Wednesday at 8 o'clock. But yeah, Instagram, Sharon Mannion Comedy, that's probably the handiest. That's where I hang out.
All right. So, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Give this episode a 5-star review everywhere, and make sure you follow Sharon everywhere. Sorry.
Just online. Thank you, Marvin. Just online.
But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Next episode will be Kate Lennon, who produced Rept. It's an organization that's supposed to help unrepresented talent receive the same services as agents with the comedians. And then after that, I'm trying to get Barry Katz on, and I'm trying to get Rick Diaz from Kill Tony. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys soon.